In this lesson, we'll begin building some of the additional details of our skyscraper. Alright, so in the previous lesson we finished up adding some of these protrusions to the back side of our building that we can see just over the edge of the front of the building here. Now, in between lessons I noticed here in our orthographic drawings that, from a top-down view we planned out for these circular objects, but I didn't add those in as far as the elevation of those objects here on the other views of our object. So I went ahead and added those in, and I'll go ahead and pop those into your project files for the entire course so you're working with the exact same files I'm working with now. So I think what I'd like to go ahead and do is start with this top portion of our skyscraper right here. This is going to be sort of the executive suite, let's say. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is just zoom in here on the top portion of our building and make sure we're ready for this. So I'm going to come in here and hide a few of these objects. We'll just hide these three objects right here. And I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and hide this one as well. Now, this top portion is actually going to line up with this window here. So one portion that we actually haven't created yet, if we hide this plane right here, is this plane right here that fits up to the corner of this window. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my perspective selection tool, and we're going to make a copy and send it back of this plane, back in perpendicular to its original position. So we'll just move that on back, and I apologize, let me just undo that here. The Smart Guides tooltip was in the way, so we'll just go ahead and try that from right about here. And we'll line that up pretty close to even with that window there. And let's go ahead and send that all the way to the back. Alright, that'll work for right now. And what we're going to do next is let's go ahead and let's just hide this piece right here. And now we've got the inside face there. So I'm going to come in here. Let's go ahead and grab this little point right here, and we're going to bring it into perspective on our left perspective plane. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Let's make a copy by holding Alt, and we'll bring that in and move that over and into position here. Now I'm not really in position, but we're just going to kind of line this up. Let's zoom in on that. Looks like we may need to actually adjust the position of this just a little bit, over to the right a little bit more, and we'll swing this down into position right on top of that plane, and it should line up fairly evenly with this angle that's established right here. So let's go ahead and just zoom in nice and tight on that. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. I may come in here and just adjust these just a little bit more just to eliminate that gap. Just by holding down the 5 key, again, moving that back just a little bit further. There we go, that looks pretty good. Now we can snap that in there. Make sure that's nice and tight, no gaps in our artwork. So we've got that first piece of the top of our building in place, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and bring back all the hidden objects with Control-Alt-3. And great, so we need another copy of this plane right here for this opposite side, and it's going to help us line up the front side of this top of our building. So let's go ahead and just hold down Alt-5 again and make another copy and move it on back. We'll send that all the way to the back, and let's zoom in nice and tight, make sure it lines up with the window itself. So holding down 5, we're going to go ahead and move that on back. Alright, and that's looking pretty good to me. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and at this point let's grab our line segment tool. Now if any time you want to double check the perspective that you've been working in, a real easy way to do this is to just think back to traditional linear perspective. Think about the vanishing points. All the lines here should be going to this vanishing point. So if we come over, select our right grid plane, we can come in here and let's just check the vanishing point on the peaks here. I'll hold down Shift and we'll just draw a path segment here. And you can see that draws right through both of those peaks. So we can do that with any one of these lines that trace back to that vanishing point just to double check ourselves if we ever want to. So at this point I'm going to mouse over using my Smart Guides and begin a path segment on the anchor points here. Holding down Shift, and we'll end it on this anchor point here. We're going to create the front face of this window. So we've drawn one path segment. Let's come down here and zoom in right in this area. We'll draw another path segment right in here. Make sure we're on that intersect there, and let's pull it all the way to here. That looks like it's in the right spot, so we'll make sure that's in the very front object by bringing it all the way to the front. And let's grab our pen tool next. So we're going to mouse over that anchor point at the end of this path segment and we're going to work on completing this shape. So we'll just come up here and look for the little link symbol, just like so. We've linked those two together. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to my normal selection tool at this point, and let's grab that object we're working with. I'm going to use my eyedropper tool, which is the keyboard shortcut I, just sample the color from this front window here. And now at this point, we can go ahead and switch back to our selection tool and then hit Control J to join that path and make that a closed shape. So we've now officially got the front window of the top portion of this building. So let's go ahead and hold Shift and select both these two windows. Let's go ahead and maybe make those a little bit different color so they can stand out from that side plane here. Alright, so that's looking really good. So at this point, I think it's time to go ahead and start thinking about these circular protrusions out of the side of our building here. And in order to do that, let's come over here to our top-down view, and let's just go ahead and grab one of these. And let's say that this is going to be the one that goes here on the front side of our building. Let's go ahead and make a copy of that and bring it a little closer to the building, because we're actually going to be working with the horizontal grid for these. So let's come over here now, grab our perspective selection tool, select our horizontal grid plane, and let's go ahead and just bring this into perspective here. It should fit pretty nicely, but you can see here that because of its original orientation, it's coming in a little crooked. It's actually not in the right position. So what we need to do is go ahead and just rotate this using our normal selection tool before we bring it into perspective. So I'm going to hold Shift, rotate that just like so, switch back over to my perspective selection tool, and now let's bring it into perspective. This is going to serve as the base for this circular platform that extends off of our building. So I'm just going to zoom in nice and tight. We're not going to worry about making sure this is absolutely 100% accurate as far as lining it up. Just going to make sure it looks pretty close. I tell you what, it looks like that may actually be just a hair too big, so let's just go ahead and resize that using our bounding box here. I'm going to hold Shift, and let's go ahead and bring that into position right there with the corner of our building. And we'll just snap that in here. I may come in and actually tighten this up a little bit in between lessons, but I tell you what, we're pretty close as of right now. So just come in here and take a look, and yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So we've created the bottom portion of this this protrusion here, this plane that comes out on the side of our building, and now we need to create sort of the top plane for this object. Now, my thought process was when I was drawing this up was, you know, maybe this top plane would be about even with this first window line right here. But yet maybe it would still conform to this angled plane right here. So it would actually be inset just a little bit. So I tell you what, we need to make a copy and bring that up perpendicular to its original position. So we'll go ahead and do that by holding Alt-5, bringing that up just like so, and we'll go ahead and line that up with that first window line here. Let's go ahead and make that a little bit lighter in color as well. So let's go ahead and maybe assign a different color to this object. Well, that looks like it's actually the same color. Let's go ahead and bring it all the way to the front here, and let's go a shade lighter here. That'll work for right now. And I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and use my bounding box controls again. Let's use the corner here, and I tell you what, let's hide some of these windows, get them out of our way. We're going to try and line this up exactly with this plane right here. So I'm going to just hold Shift and constrain the proportions on that, and let's see how close we got. Looks like we may have actually gone just a hair too far. Zoom in just a little further here and stretch it just a hair out. Alright, that's pretty close. I think that'll work for right now. So, you know, we've created both the top and the bottom planes of this little platform that sticks out of our building. And I think what I'd like to do in order to sort of complete the inside of it here is to go ahead and just draw that in without perspective using my pen tool. I think that's probably going to be the easiest way to do this. So let's go ahead and select our pen tool, then we'll select no active plane, but we actually need to switch back to our perspective tool and choose no active plane first. So remember to select which active plane you're using. You have to be using the perspective tool. So let's come in here now, and let's just go ahead and think about the best way to build this using our pen tool. Now we could come in and actually try and draw these curves by hand, but that's actually going to be a little difficult to get those to match up. It's going to take a lot of wiggling with the Bezier handles and accurate positioning of the anchor points. So I tell you what might be a better idea to do is let's come in here and let's go ahead and first we need to take a look at this part right here. You see that smart guide that pops up? We're going to have a flat edge here at some point, and that smart guide's helping us figure out exactly where that flat edge is going to be. So what I'd like to do is come in and add anchor points to sort of this area right here and connect these two planes basically by the inference of these anchor points. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and since we have this plane selected, let's go ahead and first add in an anchor point right about here. And let's come down here, select this bottom plane, and let's go ahead and add in an anchor point at its peak right about here. So now what we can do is come in and grab these path segments. So I'm going to come in with my direct selection tool, and in order to grab the path segment between this anchor point and this anchor point, as well as this anchor point and this anchor point, I'm just going to go ahead and select this anchor point right here. And it'll select both path segments on either side of that. So now I can Control C to copy that. And let's hit Control F to paste. And let me just go ahead and grab my normal selection tool and move that down, and you can see exactly what I've done here. So you can see I've copied that path segment, actually both of those path segments, and we've pasted it right on top of itself. So let's go ahead and, I tell you what, get rid of the fill color here. Don't need that. And let's come over here and select the bottom filled shape here, and I'm going to hit Control 2 to lock that into position. So now the only thing we can select there is this bottom path segment. So we're going to do a similar thing up here with this top plane. Let's come in and select this anchor point right here using our direct selection arrow, and then Control C and Control F to paste in place. And you can see here we've pasted in both of those path segments that we just copied. So I'm going to come in now at this point and let's go ahead and lock this plane right here with a Control 2. That way we can't accidentally select that. So now what we've got here is our two different curves we've created with the combined 4 path segments, and all we need to do is come in and connect these using our pen tool. So I'm going to come in and just mouse over this one and let's connect that here. And let's go ahead and switch to our selection tool and select that entire object. I'll tell you what, it doesn't look like we actually connected those. So let's take a look a little closer here and undo that last change. So we'll come over here, make sure both of these objects are the very topmost objects by hitting Control Shift close bracket. Let's grab our pen tool again and let's try and complete this path. There we go. There's our little link symbol. Now switching over to my selection tool, and let's just join this path with a Control J. That looks pretty good. So we've essentially created another plane here for the front side of this protrusion, this platform that sticks out of our building. So now we can come in and choose a color for this shape. Let's go ahead and just grab a color. That'll work for right now. And you can see how by copying those path segments and pasting them in place and creating this new shape, we've created the illusion of a side of this platform that sticks out of our building. So we actually still have one platform left to do here, but you know what? I'm going to use the exact same process. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in our platform from the orthographic drawing here. We're going to resize it if we need to, then we're going to make a copy and then create that custom shape to create this platform that we're actually going to see a little bit of right about in this area right here. So, you know, in the next lesson we're going to continue where we're leaving off here, adding a few additional details to our building.